For this project, I'll be using some of the new Starburst sprays from Lindy's Stamp Gang. This particular set is the Haunted Halloween. I'm going to be using the Witch's Potion Purple, the Hag's Wart Orange, and the Screamin' Banshee Black. Start with a little spray of water on the bottom of my craft tray here, and that's going to help the card stay flat. It'll actually stick it to the plastic while it's drying. Then I'm going to apply a liberal amount of water over the front of the white card. Now I actually want the colours to run, so I'm going to be just applying quite a lot of colour, but in patches. Finally the black. Now, the black's a really strong colour, so just adding it in spots is probably not a bad idea. Now that these are all on here, I'm just going to add a little bit more water across the top. You can see how all of these are bleeding. Then just tilt the craft tray to get these colours to move. I want these colours to blend and soften a little, so I'm going to leave this to air dry. If you wanted the colours to be more separate and more stark, you would just dry this with a heat gun. I would recommend taking it off the plastic first though. Now that the background has dried, this is what it looks like. It's quite variable, so you really don't know what you're going to get. The black has kind of spread out more than I thought it might. It's also softened more than I thought it might. If you wanted a more vibrant background, you could have added less water at the first step, which means that the colours wouldn't be quite as diluted as they have been. You can see it's got all of this gorgeous, it's not a flat kind of colour, it hasn't spread evenly. You've got little patches of white, little patches of the orange, you've got that black all around the bottom here. So this was the front of the card that I made with the Halloween colours from Lindy's Stamp Gang. And this is the back. Tell you what, I really, really like the back. The black has actually bled in these really cool little marks along the back. I may end up using this. I'm going to colour this in to match the colours of my background. I have a couple of things that I've made to help me. Firstly, I've made myself this nice little Copic colour chart, and I'll put this up on my blog as well in case anybody else would like a copy. Because of the space, I've only been able to list the colour number, not the colour name, but then I have these little things to go with it. So I've got these great little rings from the Tim Holtz range, and I've done a colour card for each of the colours. On the front I've got the colour code, and on the back I've got the colour name. So what I can do is grab my background, and the easiest way to do it is just kind of move it along and see which colours look like they might match up. So I think this Red Violet 95 is probably one of the colours. Now just to check that, what I then do is get my little colour codes out, find Red Violet 95, and I've got it so that just here, this first stroke is the colour you get if you've just done one pass of the colour. The second stroke is what you get when you go over the same area twice, so 2 strokes of the colour, and the third one is 3 strokes of the colour. So you get the colour variations that are possible with this one colour of Copic. Then grab my RV95 and put it against the cardstock to see if it's a colour match. I think it is. I think this is going to be one of the colours I end up using for my piece. So what I'll do is then I'll go across with a few more colours and try and match the black and the pink or the orange, and get some colours that I know will work with my image and my background. I've used colours from the Violet family to colour this dress. I've used V00, 01, 09, 12, 15 and 17. Because I'm just new to this, I start with the lightest colour first and mark where I'd like to add my highlights. Then I move to my darkest colour and do my outlining and any sort of fine detail on the dress. Then I work from the next darkest colour, so in this case it would have been V15, from the outside in towards my lightest colour. I find that this is the easiest way not to overcolour my image. By doing this, I make sure that my light areas stay nice and bright, and I can just keep adding more darker colours as necessary. Once I have my first layer of colour laid down over the entire piece, I then go back with some of the darker colours and add a little bit more dark to the edges so that the lighting is correct. Then, as a final step, I'll go back over with my lightest colour and blend all of those different colours together. I love a smooth finish. This image was laser printed onto Express It cardstock. I really like this particular cardstock because it's very easy to blend the colours, especially being new to Copics. It gives you a little bit more time to get things right. With laser printed images, I like to just trace lightly over the actual printing on any areas that need more detail with one of the fine line Copic pens. My light's coming from the front, so it's just shining on the middle of the dress. So this is my finished image from the greeting farm. I've coloured her skin in a little bit different to normal. I've made it a little bit grey. I've made one strip in her hair silver. I quite like the way her eyes turned out. They're quite creepy. Cut background to size and stamp with tree, emboss with black powder. Create the illusion of ground using some black soot, distress ink, and a piece of torn scrap paper. As you can see, the background already looked quite scenic, so I've just left it as it was. To create the look of clouds, add a little of the Gargoyle White Magical Mica. I'm finished my very first Halloween card, and it's amazing. I had an idea to begin with using this lovely image from the greeting farm, but when I saw how beautifully the background had turned out, completely by accident, and on the back of what I was making, mind you, I had to change my mind and do I suppose you'd call it a scenic card. So I'll give you a closer look. I've added a little tiny bit of bling just to sort of brighten the card up a bit because it was quite a dark card. You can see that background there that I made with the Starbursts, and then I've got a little bit of the ghostly Gargoyle White in the background here, and I used the magical micas for this. I've added a little bit of bling by way of a silver stripe in the hair and a few little tiny flowers. I love the way her eyes turned out. They're really striking, which was what I was after. I'm really pleased with how well the violets of the dress match the background. It's almost spot on. Now with this, but I've actually stamped this night music stamp from Stampscapes 3 times. So you can see all 3 layers here, and it looks a little bit fuzzy, but when you put it straight on, it's very, very clear with a little bit of ghosting in the background. And this is the tree that I've done with the black embossing powder, which I've then purposely burnt to get this sort of matte finish. Thought it was a bit more appropriate than a glossy tree on a Halloween card. I've combined this with some stamps from Stampscapes to finish off the scenic look, and just use Memento ink. Now I just love that background. That was completely unintentional. This was the back of my Starburst Sprays background. You can see the orange peeking through here, the Witch's Potion purple, and all of this black was the Screaming Banshee black that had bled on the back of the card. I hope you had as much fun watching this as I did making this card.